Hey, what's going on, guys? This is AndrewChicken, and welcome back to another video. Today marks the 6-month anniversary of Hi-Rez officially cutting off active development for Paladins. 6 months ago, everyone who worked on the development team over at Evil Mojo was laid off, effectively killing Paladins. You can still log in and you can play the game, the servers are still up, but the game is in maintenance mode and there is no active development whatsoever. So today I wanted to do a kind of quote-unquote post-mortem analysis of Paladins, now that it's been 6 whole months since the February 6th incident. And I honestly can't believe it's been 6 months already. It feels like just yesterday that I heard the news that, well, all my friends over at Evil Mojo were being laid off. So if you're someone who subscribed over the past 6 months because of my Deadlock content, you might be a little confused as to why I'm covering this seemingly random game. And the reason I'm doing that is because, well, I used to be the biggest Paladins YouTuber before the game got put into maintenance mode. I would make content basically every day, and we had a good long run of it. I was making content for this game for multiple years, and yeah, when February 6th came around and everybody got laid off and active development ceased, I realized that it was simply time to move on, and that's why I switched over to Deadlock. Now, I'm going to actually be doing a sort of 6-month memorial stream for Paladins a couple of hours after this video goes out, so yeah, stay tuned for that. But in this video, I kind of want to just take a look at the state of Paladins and the state of Hi-Rez Studios as a whole and see how the repercussions of their actions of laying off everyone at Evil Mojo have panned out. Paladins itself right now is it's not doing great. You can definitely tell that active development has ceased because some things have just completely broken. For example, the Event Pass and Flashback Pass both have 0 days remaining left on their timer, and it's been that way for months. These passes were supposed to be cycled out months ago with new content, and I think you can still purchase them. I honestly don't know. Pretty much everyone has these completed, though, because you've had ample time to do so. It's, yeah, it's a little awkward, and Trials of the Realm have also stopped because, well, hey, no one was there to reset them. Ranked is still working, and there is still an active ranked scene. It's, kind of small, but people are still playing ranked, which honestly surprises me. I shudder at the thought of queuing ranked in this game again, and I can't imagine how long the queue times are at this point with how small the population pool is. But yeah, people are still playing ranked. Ranked, however, did actually completely break a couple of months ago when the first split ended. You weren't able to play ranked, and they did end up fixing it. Someone at Hi-Rez decided it was worth the effort to come in and just adjust the timers. So now Season 8 and Split 1 both have 1,609 days remaining. Hopefully that's an indicator for how long the servers are going to still be up. We still have multiple years of Paladins to play, let's go! But yeah, things have definitely started to erode and crumble thanks to the lack of active development. And another big issue for this game is the fact that since there's no active development, old bugs are never going to be fixed, and new bugs and exploits have actually been found. I heard through the grapevine that in Ranked, Cassie is basically permanently banned thanks to a new bug or exploit, where Cassie is able to basically make the match unplayable in some way. I'm not super familiar with the bug because I don't play Ranked, but yeah, new bugs are kind of causing the game some grief. And hackers and cheaters are as much of a problem as ever. I have been playing Paladins a fraction of the amount that I played it when I was actively making content on the game. I still log in sometimes to play with friends, and I have noticed multiple hackers and cheaters in my matches. It's certainly not every match, it's certainly not a plague upon the game in the same way that it was for TF2 at one point, but there are cheaters abound because, quite frankly, who's going to stop them? Hi-Rez support is a fraction of the capacity that it once was before, and Paladins is not a priority for them. The game's player base has also been dwindling pretty substantially, although admittedly not as much as I actually thought it would. So the game is currently peaking anywhere from around 1,600 to 1,300 players, depending on what time you look, and the troughs down here are getting as low as 400 players online at the worst hours, which definitely isn't good. And if we go ahead and take a look back at the past 6 months, you'll notice that it is about half of where it was in February. In February, the peaks were looking more like 2,500, 2,000 players, and we're at about half of that, or 60% of that, right about now. You'll also notice these random spikes, and these spikes are not organic. These aren't actual players coming back and making the game really popular all of a sudden. No, the game has been botted multiple times since the game effectively got shut down because yeah, I guess people botting the game want to make it look like Paladins is seeing a resurgence in a vain effort to make Hi-Rez pay attention to the game once again, but it simply doesn't work like that, and these botting attempts have all been shut down. None of these are actually organic, and it's much more apparent if you're actually able to look at the granular data on a day-by-day basis. If you were looking at it at the time like I did, you saw that it was very clearly fake. The only spike that's actually real is this one over here, back around February 10th, and that's because when the news broke that Paladins was effectively going into maintenance mode, a lot of players came back to give it one last hurrah. But yeah, there is still a very active and consistent player base of players that are logging in and still playing this game, and honestly, it is admirable. Paladins is a game that, for all its faults, just struggles and struggles to truly die. It has a cult following of players that just, even in the game's current state, are willing to log in every day and play it, and that truly is admirable. It truly, truly is, and it just goes to show how great this game could have been if Hi-Rez didn't mismanage it. Because yeah, ultimately, Hi-Rez's mismanagement is what made the game ultimately fail. They just made poor decisions over the past literal almost decade when it comes to this game, including events like OB64, that just sent the game in the wrong direction and ruined any chance that it truly had of becoming a super strong, popular game. You know, it could have been another Overwatch. Overwatch is still, it's doing somewhat well recently. Like, it's not at its peak that it once was at, but it's still receiving active development, and it still has tens of thousands of players that play it every day. Paladins could have had some of that success too, but instead, we're living in the timeline where Paladins is currently in maintenance mode. And it's just so sad to me too, because the actual developers at Evil Mojo, the people who were working on this game up until the very end, were so passionate for this game. I was part of the Paladins Partner Program, which was a group of content creators and other notable figures in the community who would talk directly with the devs about balance changes and ideas for the community and stuff like that. And we got to see firsthand just how passionate these people truly were. And they were actively working on content and fixes and changes for the game right up until the point that they got laid off. They certainly didn't actually expect to be laid off. They had plans for doing stuff and evolving the season as the months would go on. And so it's just truly a shame to see what happened to them and what Hi-Rez has done here, because yeah, Hi-Rez had every single chance possible to make this game into something great, and almost at every single turn, they failed to do so and plummeted the game to its current state. And Hi-Rez itself continues to not do well. Obviously, on February 6th, the incident happened, where Hi-Rez laid off many, many people, around 70 employees or something like that. And they actually have been hemorrhaging employees ever since. People have been leaving of their own volition, and they've also been laying off even more people. This article, published on June 3rd, talks about how even more people were being shown the door, and even Hi-Rez president Stuart Chisholm is no longer at the company. Stuart Chisholm kind of became the face for all of this negative publicity around Hi-Rez and all of the anger of the Paladins community because of these layoffs. And, yeah, he, I guess, decided that the timing was finally right for him to move on. So not even Stuart Chisholm is working at the company anymore. Honestly, I feel like that's a really strong sign that Hi-Rez just is not doing well. Not even Chisholm wants to stick around. Hi-Rez put all of their eggs into the Smite 2 basket and ended development for any other project they had. They either put games into maintenance mode in the case of Paladins and Smite 1, or they just shut down their games entirely in the case of Realm Royale. And so well, how is Smite 2 doing? Because I think this is the single best indicator for how Hi-Rez is doing and how it's going to be doing going forward. And, well, it's not good. It's not nearly as good as what Hi-Rez needs it to be. Smite 2 currently has pretty poor reviews. The all-time reviews are only 56% positive, very mixed reviews, and the recent reviews are even worse. Only 47%, less than half of the reviews, are positive. So that alone is a really bad sign. People are not really enjoying Smite 2. And, yeah, the player numbers aren't super good either. If we take a look at the Steam charts, this is the max all-time curve, and right here in January is when the game entered its open beta state, when anybody could play the game. They had a pretty strong start, a spike of about 21,000 players. But the game has been hemorrhaging ever since, and even in February, around the time of the layoffs, the game had already lost around half of its players. And ever since February, the game has continued to dwindle down to about half of what it was in February. There's been a minor uptick in players recently over the past month, as you can see, but for the most part, the game is hovering around 6,000 concurrent players peak daily, which, I mean, it's certainly something, and for a game studio with only one game, this is definitely manageable, but I'm sure Hi-Rez has had to rein in their aspirations for Smite 2 because of these much smaller than necessary player numbers, and certainly the reviews are not helping either. It certainly seems like the game is in an alright state, but I don't think alright is going to cut it, and I don't think it's good enough for what Hi-Rez really needs right now. And of course, because they cut support for every single one of their other games. If Smite 2 continues to do poorly, continues to hemorrhage players, continues to have poor reviews on Steam, and just kind of fizzles out, Hi-Rez is basically done at that point. I don't know what else they can do to recover their company, and if Hi-Rez goes out, then obviously we're not going to have any Paladin servers anymore, and Paladins will officially, unequivocally be dead. It's not a future I want to see, and when Smite 2 originally came out and we thought there was still hope for Paladins, I was rooting for Smite 2's success, because if Smite 2 was successful, then that means Paladins would still have a flicker of hope. But obviously, that's not how things panned out. However, there is one glimmer of hope, and that is the Tempest Launcher, which is a community-run project that has the goal of preserving Paladins in perpetuity. Basically, it's a launcher that has been created by some extremely dedicated and passionate Paladins fans that allows you to launch and run any version of Paladins from the past and the present, going as far back as many of the open beta versions. And so, this is an incredible project that is going to preserve Paladins even when the Hi-Rez servers do shut down. And, yeah, they even have a rudimentary, crude version of multiplayer up and running, so if you want to play with friends, you can figure out how to do that here in the Tempest Discord server, and it truly is an incredible project. I haven't made a full dedicated video on the Tempest Launcher yet because I've been wanting to wait until the launcher is as feature-rich and complete as possible, and especially I wanted the multiplayer to be as strong as possible and as complete as possible. And so when that time comes, I will make a full dedicated video showing how to use the launcher and advertising it to the fullest, because I think this is truly an incredible creation. And if you want to see what work they have been able to do, then I'll have a link to the Tempest Launcher Discord server in the description down below. But this is an incredible community project, and it really goes to show the dedication of the Paladins community, and well, what Hi-Rez really squandered at the end of the day. This Tempest Launcher even has mod support. They're showing people how they can mod Paladins using the Tempest Launcher. You could potentially make your own balance patch for this game if you have the time, the dedication, and the skill. So, it's truly incredible, and this is the one last hope for Paladins to not be left behind and to stand the test of time. But yeah, at the end of the day, Paladins truly isn't doing that great. There is still a very dedicated, active community for this game, but it is unfortunately smaller than ever. The game is starting to crumble and erode as some systems fall apart, and basically just don't get updated now that all the developers have been laid off from the game. And Hi-Rez also seems to not be doing super well. They have lost a ton of employees, including their president, Stuart Chisholm, and Smite 2 continues to have poor reviews on Steam and a dwindling player base. And so things aren't looking super hopeful for Hi-Rez at the end of the day, and to be honest, they have no one to blame but themselves. Years of poor decision making have led them to this point, and the sad thing is, we, as the communities around these games, around Paladins, have to be the ones who suffer, because now our favorite game is, basically dead. There is still some hope in the form of the Tempest Launcher, but, yeah, Paladins will never recover to the state that it once was, and I'm so sad to see what happened to this game, knowing what could have been. So yeah, let me know in the comments section what you think about this whole situation, and yeah, with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.